Yo, my dude.
We're here. We're here.
Woo, baby. Man.
So excited.
Me too.
I
Good to see you, man.
I am genuinely oozing with excitement. I didn't say literally because that'd be a little strange, I guess. But I am just, the flutters are real in this moment.
They are, man. And I've just been waiting so long for just this moment, but also, my friend, to talk to you. I'm so excited to dive into this with you.
I know, this is like the Jedi and the Padawan experiencing something for the first time, you know, the master and the apprentice. And so, man, oh man, we're here. And
We're here.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about episode 1 of campaign 3 of Critical Role. So I'm Will. I'm Blake.
I'm Blake?
That's weird.
I didn't know we were doing something there.
Yeah, I'm Blake. That's Will.
That's me.
And we're the Pixelists, and we like to talk about our favorite games, movies, shows that tickles our fancy. We are huge D&D nerds, and if you've made it to our humble Pixelist podcast, welcome. Thank you for checking out the Pixelist podcast, where we're going to be talking about the amazing, the exceptional, the oh-so-exciting campaign number 3, episode 1. So, my man, we are here. There's been a lot of build up for today. There's been a lot of just excitement, anxiousness. Yeah. I mean, how are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling good, man. It's actually hasn't been that long of a wait, really, all things considered, especially since we got ExU in the interim. But been waiting for this moment, and it honestly lived up to my expectations and then some. I had a great time last night. Was very thoroughly impressed and enjoyed the episode, and I can't wait for this campaign, man.
The episode was terrific. Yeah, I mean, I was smiling, I was laughing. It was so great. What, in retrospect, now it's only been just under 24 hours since the episode aired, and then I caught a rewatch today. I think you watched some of it again today. Mm-hmm. What was it, do you think, about the episode that just made it? I mean, was it the buildup? Was it just the hype of here we are? I mean, what made it so great in your mind?
Yeah, I think it was a combination of things. One, just campaign 3, like amidst all this excitement of the animated show about to come out, like just the growth of their company, just the pure excitement of a new campaign to begin with, but also the fact that we're coming off kind of the pandemic campaign, if you allow me to call it that, just because, in campaign 2, they all were separate, all had to kind of do things differently to accommodate that, and now we're all back in this brand new beautiful set that is incredible. They're all back at the same table, so I think there was just like so many layers of excitement that were all coming to fruition all tonight, and that just made it great.
Yeah, there was definitely a just an air of optimism on the show watching it. I loved the episode. It was phenomenal. I mean, I was giddy watching it. And it's big for me in the sense of I haven't committed to an entire watch through of a campaign before. And so I'm really excited for where this campaign goes.
I know, dude. I'm so stoked to have you in for the ride this time around. So Blake basically just covered it, but a little backstory on us is you've seen about maybe like 20 or 30 episodes total of Critical Role.
I think I saw maybe the first 10 of campaign 2, and then I saw maybe 15 to 20 of campaign 1.
Okay. And I have seen all of campaign 1 and 2, but then we both watched ExU.
Right. Yeah.
So we got Blake in for that, and now we're diving into this campaign together. So yeah, dude, I'm so excited that you're here for the beginning of it, and just to have one of my good friends to talk about it with, which I'm sure a lot of critters can kind of relate to that of, being so into this show and maybe not having really people to talk about it with. So,
which by the way, if you're watching this video, you've probably seen episode 1, but if you have a friend or a loved one or someone who you would want them to enjoy Critical Role with you, but you're thinking like, where the heck do we start with this? Like, how do I even like get them introduced to the concept of it? Well, you got to check out our other video on what is Critical Role. We posted it last week, and it's just a very generic drive-by of pretty much everything you need to know to get started. And we're probably going to say this. I mean, Will, I'm venturing to guess we're going to say this almost every episode, but it's never too late to
It's not.
get engaged, get involved, and we're all part of this grand story together.
Yeah, it really is never too late because you can always catch up. And what another plug is Blake and I are going to be doing recaps for each episode. So, if you miss one or, whatever the case may be, we'll have those out there to help you get caught up. But now is the perfect, there's not a better time than right now to jump in because we're at a brand new campaign, like here in a year and a half, we're going to be 80 episodes deep. And then I could maybe understand some people's hesitancy, but
It's
right
not
now
too late.
there's no excuse. So
Yeah.
definitely jump in.
You mentioned the recap, and one thing about the recaps is we're always going to have the recap that gets posted. We're still working out details, but there's always going to be a recap separate video along with some discussion in the actual episode. We'd love to know, by the way, if you love a sort of long form recap that covers all the nice, neat little bits of flavor and Easter eggs and cool moments. Or if you're looking for like, hey, just give it to me quick and dirty. What's the basic details of what happened? So far, our recaps are about 15 to 20 minutes long, and we're kind of aiming to stick around that. But we'd love to know, what do you enjoy? What do you like? And having said that, maybe it's a good time to talk about what happened in episode 1 of Critical Role Campaign 3.
Ooh.
You want to kick us off?
Yeah, let's do it. So this will be our...
And let me turn to my notes here because I was taking a bunch of notes. I think you were taking a bunch of notes. But yeah, so take it away, my man.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, because we will be cutting this out and putting this on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. We are the Pixelists. That's Blake. I'm Will, and we've got your Critical Role Campaign 3 Episode 1 recap here for you. So, let's see. To start, all right, so the episode opens with, as the past campaigns have as well, with Matt basically staring us in the eye, peering straight into my soul, and basically giving a monologue about just Marquet and Exandria, but more specifically Marquet, and just setting up basically the location in which we find ourselves, not only for the campaign at whole, but also like the more specific location, which I will get to. But I gotta say that, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, my wife, by the way, during that opening, she was like, it was kind of, we were just silent listening, and she goes, wow, he's pretty good. She's never seen him DM before. Yeah. She's like, wow, he's really good.
He's incredible.
But anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're fine. That's actually a perfect segue as to what I was going to say, is that Matt does a better job than I ever could. And so I don't want to just sit here and word for word repeat what he said, because he gives like a 5-minute, like basically opening preface to the campaign. And so I would highly recommend that you just go check out that VOD. It's the very beginning. It'll just take a couple minutes. And you can get a much better picture painted than I could, but I will try to, still give the condensed version here. And essentially we are in Marquet, and it is the year 843 PD, which stands for post divergence. And just for reference, this means it's about a year after the events of Exandria Unlimited, give or take, and about 7 years after the events of Campaign 2. So our story begins in the Serpent Wind Peaks, which is these big mountains that are strewn basically amongst this like lush jungle forest area called the Odrian Wilds. And you guys will have to forgive me on some of the pronunciations once we get deeper into the campaign. Hopefully I'll learn them. So
it'll be commonplace at that point.
Bear with me. Yeah.
If Laura Bailey can't remember Lord Esteros, I think it's okay if we forget how to pronounce a couple of these things. So, that's later in the episode. Spoiler.
Oh, sorry. But so there's numerous towns kind of scattered in this area. When I believe it's called the Honored Trails. And 5 of these tower-like mountains basically spew out of this forest above all the rest. And they have been carved to basically house these streets and, urban districts and everything, basically forming this massive singular city connected by bridges and cables and just all sorts of like canopy-esque accoutrement. and this is known as the capital city Drusar, home to the Shandai Quorum. Again,
Yep, that's right.
pronunciation,
Yeah, you nailed it.
and that which oversees and controls the larger populace. So we pick up within one of these cable cars, kind of traveling between this mountainous city. And inside, we meet our first two characters. We have Imogen, who is a young human sorcerer with like long, light purple hair and a thick Southern accent,
Great.
played by the one and only Laura Bailey. And we have Launda, who is also young but a bit older than Imogen, and she's got dark hair and is kind of very like macabre and kind of got like a gothic vibe a little bit.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah.
And she's got black hair with a streak of white, and I think she's. They mentioned she has a belt with like a dead rat on it and like
Yeah.
a
I think
bird skull.
that's right. Yeah. Yeah. Very wholesome.
Yeah, yeah. And so
Great for your children.
the two of them are in this, cable car, and we find out that they've been here for a couple weeks, and they have come to the city because Imogen is wanting to access some books, some knowledge, some research that she is trying to find. And there are a couple places here that have a vast libraries and stuff. One of which is the Starpoint Conservatory, which is where they're currently headed. Because if you are not a student of these
Universities.
universities, yeah, thank you. Then you have to request like special permission to be able to access it. So she did just that, but they haven't heard back, and so they decided to go and check and see if there's any news. So they arrive at this conservatory, go in, and there's a lady there that they speak to. And long story short, she's like, can I access this information? And she's like, let me go check. She comes back with a letter, and unfortunately, they are denying her access to the information. And so they're like, what can we do? And she's basically like, you need this written permission from someone from the quorum or someone from the Guru Courtier. Ugh, pronunciation.
Yeah, I wrote Kotri. I don't remember what that was from.
Oh yeah, a coder. Yeah, I think you're saying it right.
Kotri or Kotri to speak on your behalf.
And so they're like, okay, how do we do this? And they're like, you got to get in with one of them, and they get permission. So they kind of leave tail between their legs, having not got what they came for, but now they're on a new quest to kind of, gain some recognition so that they can, earn this entry to these libraries. So they decide to leave, and they're like, let's, hit the market before we head home. And that's kind of the end of that scene. And now we cut over to a new place now known as the Crook House, which is like this destitute, kind of like underground vibe, kind of like for the outcasts of the society. It seems like hovel, as it were, but it's actually like quite colorful and fun inside. Like there's beads and different things strewn about. And Matt made it actually sound to be pretty big, saying it contained like a multitude of ladders and rafters and ropes and tunnels. So it was this really cool, like underground network of outcasts, seemingly. And we're introduced here to Ashton, Talison's character, which, by the way, I don't remember if I said this. Laudna is Marisha Ray's character, so forgive me if I didn't mention that. So here we're introduced to Ashton, who is an Earth Genasi barbarian, and he's so cool. He's got like this injury on his head that is like, we don't really know what happened, but it's got like this cracked veneer that like goes down his arm, and he said it was looked like it had been like filled in with gold or something. And he's got a jacket that says "just don't" on it, and a big mace that says "fuck off." And he's kind of getting over a hangover as he's waking up, and runs down to get some food. A gentleman, which I assume is his friend, a non-binary human, I think, named Milo.
I got the impression he was like the steward of the house, maybe even the person who
Yeah.
owns the house.
Yeah.
But
Me too. I think you're
Anyway,
correct.
keep going.
So he's cooking up, and Ashton basically asks, "Hey, have you seen fresh cut grass?" And basically, cue Sam Riegel's character entering the scene, which is a small automaton robot called Fresh Cut Grass, aka F.C.G for short. And he's called that because he's got this symbol on his chest that looks like blades of grass, and we actually learn a little bit more about why he's called that later too. Um, but they talk a little bit, and we find out that they've been kind of traveling together for a few weeks, and they decide that they need to get out and look for some work because they don't have any money.
Mhm.
So,
Very wholesome character, by the way.
yes,
Yeah,
he's
he's basically Ted Lasso. Like,
yes, I
let's
was
just.
gonna say that to you. That's exactly who he is.
I'm on episode 2, so I immediately had to use the reference. So
Nice.
anyway, that's a different conversation.
Yeah, but 100% agree. Very wholesome. And so they leave the Crook House and are off to go find some money. They ultimately decide to head to this inn named the Spire by Fire, and which rhymes. And Ashton walks up and goes and talks to the bartender and is like, "Hey, you got any work for me?" And unfortunately, the bartender tells him that don't really have anything that suits your particular skill set. But he gets a real kick out of fresh cut grass, whom eats a few pieces of copper because he's a robot and that's what he eats instead of food. And the bartender just loves that and is like, "Hey, you could entertain people around here and make some money, but Ashton, I don't have anything for you." And we also learn kind of a little bit about fresh cut grass here is that like he's just like we just mentioned, Ted Lasso, very wholesome. His goal in life is just to find people and kind of help them find their purpose, their fulfillment, their happiness. He thinks there's a lot of broken people out there, and he just wants to help them, which is kind
Yeah,
of
and
enlightening for why he's paired up with Ashton, who seems to be a little rougher around the edges.
yeah, and it's nice. The barkeep is like, after he says this, he's like, "All right, now you've made it weird."
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, very very wholesome for sure.
Yeah, and so that's kind of the end of that scene, and again we cut um over to huge surprise moment. Freaking ExU people show up. We've got Orem, Dorian, and Fern arriving to Drusar by skyship, having chartered one on their quest given to them by Keyleth, the voice of the Tempest. And that has brought them here. So we've got Fern, played by Ashley Johnson, who is this fawn druid with long green hair. She's like covered in flowers and mushrooms and like little jewelry and baubles. And she's got a little flaming monkey on her shoulder named Mister. We have Orem, played by Liam O'Brien, who is a halfling fighter, and he's got like short blonde hair, wearing like simple leather armor, and he's got himself a very fancy shield and a nice sword, and a sleeve tattoo that crawls all the way up his arm and is crowned by the two moons of Exandria. Um, and then finally we have Dorian, who is played by Robbie Damon, surprise addition to the cast, whom is a traveling bard, air genasi, blue skin, wearing nice clothes, very clean, well kempt, well manicured. Um, and it's revealed that they are here on a mission to find a man. Um, we don't know who yet, but they mentioned that this city is huge and we have to find one man. This like might be tough. So they decide to take the night to kind of decompress from their travel, get some food, get some sleep, and then really start their quest in the morning. Dorian, who has been here before, warns them, "Hey, be careful. I got pickpocketed last time I was here, so watch your back." And basically, as he's saying this, Fern pickpockets Pakidon, which pronunciation I hope, which is like
Yeah.
a large like elephant type creature, and she steals his earring from him, which Orem and Dorian immediately scold her for this and are like, "This trouble is going to catch up to you. Like, you can't keep doing this." And she's like, "Oh, you said it was easy to steal here, so I did." um, so they scold her for that, and then they're like, "Okay, yeah, let's go get some food and rest." And Dorian, having been here before, suggests the Spire by Fire, and
Right.
so they head that way. And then it picks back up with Imogen and Launda again, when all of a sudden this wayward cart comes crashing down the alleyway and causing a ruckus. And you want to take it from there?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think Matt did such a great job describing like this moment. Like they've just gotten their groceries and they're walking essentially by the Spire by Fire, and hear this low boom hum. And this cart has this big, glowing orb of blue energy that's there for just a second, and then it disappears, and it basically shatters this carriage. And all of the things it's carrying go scattering across the road. And immediately as this is happening, some of the items in the carriage actually begin to animate, and they look pretty menacing. And so Launda and Imogen are like right there, like, "Are you seeing this? Like, what's going on here?" And also, it's actually right in front of the tavern. Fresh Cut Grass and Ashton are like, "What's going on out there?" And Fresh Cut Grass is like, "Is it a party?" And Ashton's like, "Yeah, let's go." So he rushes out, or excuse me, they rush out, and basically they arrive also at the same time that Dorian, Fern, and Orem are also arriving. So everyone's arriving at the exact same moment. And essentially, the things that animate are a sword, a kitchen knife, a rug, a broom, and a large table. And this is the first initiative of the campaign. And so they begin to fight it. Um, it's a pretty typical battle. There's a couple of really cool details that give you a little bit of insight on the character's subclass. Laudna does something called Form of the Dead or Form of Dread. I'm not sure. I think it's Form of the Dead.
Yeah, I think
And
so.
Somehow related to her Warlock subclass. But it transforms her into this really ghastly. I think she even describes like a veil coming over her face as her bones kind of pop, and she like stretches and becomes like this ghastly figure. And then Ashton they do like this interesting. They mention like this gravity energy that they're doing, and it seems to pull the animated objects towards them. And they also mentioned doing this thing called like Chaos Burst, I think, or Chaos Blast. Actually, I wrote it down, Chaos Burst, which I did a Google. I had no idea what it was and couldn't find anything either. So I guess it's a bit of a homebrew thing. And the other thing that might be a homebrew detail is Fresh Cut Grass does something called Sympathetic Link, which allows him, when someone takes damage, he takes half of the damage.
Yeah.
But you have a pretty.
Sorry. They
Go
actually
ahead.
are both homebrew. Matt tweeted about it
Okay,
a
great.
little bit earlier today.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so we get a little bit of homebrew flavor in this battle, but pretty typical battle. It's fun seeing them all, start to show some of the flair of their characters, and we finally get Travis's character rushing out, a man that he describes in his late 70s, early 80s, with I believe, a cane and a rapier, and rushes out and says, "For Dressar," and begins to battle. I don't know. So they battle. They end up defeating these random objects. And after the fight's over, Travis's character, who introduces himself as Sir Bertrand Bell, a level 5 fighter, basically says, "Hey, you guys were pretty awesome. Are y'all looking for more work?" And Laudna says, "Well, we're not really looking for money," speaking for herself and Imogen, "but like, would this help us get enough esteem, like doing more work, where maybe the Starpoint Conservatory would let us in?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, of course. In fact, I actually I sponsor a portion of their library." And uh, Bertrand Bell makes several comments like this, by the way, that makes him seem like essentially a very key figure in Dressar. And this is an important detail because actually he mentions they go inside, they have this conversation, and he actually mentions there's a philanthropist, a very important person in the core spire, which the core spire is this central spire. There's 5 spires that comprise Dressar. And in the core spire, there's a philanthropist, full on a philanthropist who goes by the name of Lord Esteros. And we joked earlier that some of the cast were like, "What's the name again?" And it's like Lord Esteros. And sort of has this ambition to help as many people as possible. And Bertrand Bell they joke, is sort of like a talent agent whose job is to go out and find great potential hires who could come do tasks that would essentially be similar to what they just did. They would basically need to bring some muscle and solve maybe some precarious problems. So Ashton and Fresh Cut Grass are really motivated by the idea of making some money. Orem, Fern, and Dorian. Orem is interested and has this intuition. He calls it this itch at the back of his brain that maybe they should do something like this, even though it's a bit of a segue from their main mission.
Mm-hmm.
And Launda and Imogen are like, yeah, let's do it. This is going to get us the clout we need to get into the Starpoint Conservatory. So they agree to meet the next morning. That night, as a sort of killing time, Orem actually goes over to Bertrand Bell's room, knocks on the door, and Bertrand Bell is sound asleep in his chair. And he's like, "Oh, is it morning?" And he's like, "No, it's 7:30. Like we just spoke." Like, and he's like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "We just spoke half an hour ago." But he asks him, "Hey, since you seem to know everyone here," and he's like, "Oh yeah, of course I know everybody." He asks, "Do you know a Bochad Brezio?" And then also asks, "Do you know someone who calls themselves the Anger?" To both of which Bertrand Bell's like, I have no idea who either of those people are. But Lord Estros, maybe he'll know. Simultaneously, Launda and Imogen are going back to where they're staying, which is this neighborhood called, I think, the Windowed Whale or the Well, Windowed something.
I think
and
Windowed Wall, maybe?
Windowed Wall, it makes sense. And it is this sprawling neighborhood. They're staying in this woman's house who basically is a widow. Her late husband passed away a long time ago, and now she's sort of like an innkeeper, I guess, or an Airbnb or whatever. And once they're in there, they ask about Lord Esteros, and the woman mentions, "Oh yes, Lord Esteros, years ago, he took over the estate of a woman who basically died, and he like moved in and bought her place." But that's the only detail that we get. And then back at the tavern at the Spire by Fire, Ashton decides that they're going to play cards with the bouncer and another person down in the bar. Fresh Cut Grass keeps a lookout and decides that whoever gets the drunkest and is in the need of most help, he's going to donate his room to that person, and actually does so. And then Fern decides with Dorian to just enjoy the environment a little bit. And so Dorian decides to play his lyre, and it's pretty much a total train wreck. But he eventually wins back the crowd thanks to Fern being like, "Oh my gosh, it's Dorian Storm," which helps a little bit. And then Fern actually tries to help Ashton win his card game that he's bought into with the Pacadon, who he's playing against. And unfortunately, Ashton eventually loses.
He loses a lot.
Yeah, loses a lot of money, actually. All that to say, the night passes. Ashton does check the detail of Fern trying to give him a hand and just makes a mental note and says, like, that surprises me. That's interesting. And then there's one other big detail, actually, before the party had split. They actually are getting to know each other a bit. And Fresh Cut Grass mentions that he first came across Ashton, or rather, Ashton came across him when him being Fresh Cut Grass was in a silver mine on a mission in a nearby town with a bunch of his friends, and they were basically all murdered except for him. He describes that he was in stasis mode, and then Ashton came along a few days later and found him and was like, "Yeah, all your friends are dead." Also mentions that he's named after he keeps calling them his associate, not like his creator, but an associate who goes by the name of Dancer, who has created similar friends like him that are all after her favorite smells, I think is what they had said.
Yeah.
And other than that, he now has, after he basically woke up and found all of his friends are dead, he collected some certain key parts of their bodies, like a saw blade, I guess, to remember them by. I'm not really quite sure, but he's now has like an amalgamation of different things from them.
Yeah, I think it's so he can like do different stuff, you know? Like he could maybe attach the saw blade and like do damage or, you know.
Yeah. Just so this isn't getting too long-winded, getting to the point, the next morning they're heading off to Lord Esteros's place. And again, Bertrand Bell is making all these comments like, I think Dorian even asked, like, "Is he expecting us?" And he's like, "Oh, yes, of course." Like, really hams up the fact that he's Lord Esteros's go-to guy. They get there. The person who comes to the door, the servant, is like, "What's going on?" Like,
"Who are you?"
"Oh, yeah." And it kind of has to, Belle has to sort of jog his memory or jog her memory. And she's like, "Oh, okay." basically says the Lord will see you. They go into this place. It is notably very dim. They mentioned there's almost no, Matt Mercer mentions there's almost no like natural light in this place. And they're led to this dark room with the crackling fire, a study where this older orc who pretty clearly he's bald and pretty clearly is on the tail end of his life, but still maintains this power and presence about himself.
Silver
Um,
Fox.
yeah, announces himself as Lord Esteros and basically is like, "What are you doing here, Bertrand?" And it's pretty clear that Bertrand and him had engaged in something a few months ago, and then Lord Esteros was not expecting to see him again,
Yeah.
or certainly wasn't like this sort of deal that Bertrand described to the rest of the group. So Lord Esteros to the rest of the group is like, "Who are you guys? What do you want?" And Fern, in typical Fern fashion, is like, what do I want out of life, or like, what do I want? It's kind of a funny comment, but Lord Esteros is really annoyed by this and is like, Bertrand, you've totally like, you're an idiot. Like, you've wasted my time. And Bertrand's like, no, 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 they want to work for you. They're great. They're great potential hires. And Lord Esteros says, really? Well, if that's true, prove it. And stands up and charges at the group. And that's where the episode ends. And that is what happened in episode 1 of campaign 3.
Yeah. Number 1 in
Yeah,
the books, baby.
we did it.
We did it.
And yeah, I mean, I almost don't know where to start with this episode other than the fact that I enjoyed pretty much every single detail of it.
Yeah, and again, if you are on YouTube watching this recap, the video's ending here. But if you're interested in Blake and I's thoughts, our discussion, and everything, we'll do a link down to the full video below. So feel free to check that out. But yeah, uh, I don't know where to start either. But I would be remiss if we didn't talk about a couple things out of game first. One
Okay.
being the freaking set, man. Just
Yep.
how
Awesome.
incredible it was, and just the if you're new to Critical Role, this is brand new, the set they're in, and those lighting effects where it, like, when it became sunset, that and then
Yeah.
dusk, and just everything is so incredible. It's going to be so
Yeah.
hard for somebody who didn't watch C1 and to like, if C3 is their first experience, to like go back and watch C1, just because it's such a massive downgrade in production quality. I still say it's worth it.
Well, I've mentioned before, I don't know if I mentioned it on this podcast, but I'm a DM of about 7 people who are mostly first-time players. And I sent them to watch the show last night, and they're like, "Oh, this is awesome, and check this out." But at the same time, I was like, their expectations are going to skyrocket now
Yeah.
for like what makes it amazing, But yeah, the set was amazing. The lighting effects were really cool, and I get the impression there's actually going to be quite a bit more we haven't seen from the set.
Yeah,
So
agreed. I mean, the capabilities, just, I think we've scratched the surface, and I in particular am just cannot wait for the first scene where it's like raining, because I know it's going to be awesome. And I bet the 2 windows in the back of the set are actually TVs, and so I can just imagine, like, it playing like a rainy
yeah,
background or something. But yeah, just incredible. Marisha and the entire production team she put together did an incredible job, and mentioned this a little bit before earlier, but gotta say it again, just so awesome to have everyone back at the same table. It's just great to see them get to have that again after being
mhm.
separated during the pandemic.
I think
um,
Liam even made a comment of like, he was like, "Oh, I can like actually like reach and touch like
yeah,
the battle map, so to speak."
yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of excitement there.
And it's cool that to see these seating arrangements for this campaign, which is just, I mean, it's not that big of a thing, but it's just fun that each campaign they've swapped up like who they're sitting next to, and it's just, it'll lead to some fun dynamics between those people, and perhaps the characters as well. We'll see if
Mhm.
it bleeds over. But yeah, so had to shout out the set. And then also gotta shout out Sam Riegel's first ad bit for
Oh my
campaign
gosh,
3.
yes,
Like,
so good.
oh my gosh, man. Again, if you're new to Critical Role, they all have different roles within the company outside of the D&D game itself, because they have built this company and might as well call it an empire at this point. But Sam's role is like all of the ad add stuff. So every episode he will shout out their sponsors and usually do some sort of bit to ham it up, or and some of them are like legitimately incredible. So to start off C3 with such a bang, where he legit like performed an actual like musical
Yeah,
that he wrote and got produced,
really funny. Yeah.
was just amazing. So
Yeah, my wife was like, What is this? Like, what is happening?" And I was like, "I don't know, but I love it." So,
yeah, I had to mention that as well.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, so moving forward into the actual episode, man, we could really start anywhere. I
Yeah.
guess, do you have something in particular? Or?
I mean, for me, like, the biggest elephant in the room, I don't even know if it's fair to call it an elephant in the room, but the biggest thing that we have common ground in is the return of the ExU characters,
Mm-hmm.
Dorian, Fern, and Orem. Is that an okay starting point?
Yeah, yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah, so I had, we had talked a little bit about Liam O'Brien, like what character he might play, and how he had given us a couple of breadcrumbs about how it might be. He had mentioned he was looking at some of the original classes, and there were some comments about him maybe even being a cleric. Um, but there was definitely a lot of conversation on top of that. Excuse me, on how he had even said during EXU that Orem was a character he had been working on for a long time. And so there
Mm-hmm.
was a bit of a disconnect of, okay, he's put so much energy and excitement and has vocally talked about how important Orem is for him, only to leave it behind after 8 episodes was kind of interesting.
Right.
So that moment, and as Matt was describing it and explaining it and was connecting the dots, and then the three of them walked in, three of them specifically being Dorian. Frankly, I couldn't stop smiling. I mean, I was just literally like, no way,
I
like,
know.
no way. Because EXU, for all of its flaws, its characters were incredible. And to have those characters here back to get more of them, it was really special for me personally, having watched EXU. And I just couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, we are getting the continuation of their story. This
Yeah.
is really amazing.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I couldn't believe it. I was like, they did it. They really pulled a fast one on us. And some of this, I don't know. What do you think do you think we should maybe even make another video to kind of talk about our thoughts on EXU now that we know this, or should we just talk about it right here? So
I
I don't want to
think,
dive too far in a
yeah,
different
no,
direction.
I think maybe a separate video on like what if you're watching campaign 3 and you didn't watch EXU or you didn't make it to the end of EXU, we might have another video up that's just like, hey, what are the big takeaways from it in
Hmm.
terms of like related plot points for why they may be on this mission that they're on.
Yeah.
um, and a little bit maybe about some of the things that they've been through. But yeah, I agree with you that we probably don't need to get too in the weeds on it, other than maybe what's relevant for this episode.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, it does seem just from pure reaction standpoint, it was I actually didn't pick up the detail that it's a year later.
Yeah.
Um, and Matt did mention that Dariax and Opal are still back in Byroden, which was a really, really interesting detail to me, considering that they were originally heading south to the Iron Authority.
Right. Right.
And Opal has the crown, which again, if you haven't watched EXG, you're probably like, what are these details? But point being, the time jump is really interesting to me. And it made me wonder as we were watching, great example when Fern pickpockets the Pachyderm and Orem says to Dorian, like, something like, what's the last couple months been like? And Dorian
Yeah.
says, like, horrible. Like, it's been really not horrible, but like it's been really challenging controlling her.
Right.
That made me wonder, okay, are we just referring to Fern's general nature? Or is something happening that
Hmm.
has essentially facilitated this mission that they're on? Which I don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, we maybe be on the lookout for another video there if you're interested in more EXU specific thoughts like that. But it was just a lot of my issues I had with EXU, which again, you can go and check out our videos. And also, actually, if you didn't watch EXU, we have a video recap of every episode. So if you want to catch up quick, definitely check those out. Um, but a lot of, we both enjoyed EXU, but we had our criticisms. And I would say that the fact that they are continuing this in campaign 3, uh, doesn't make all my criticisms go away, but it definitely helps a lot of the issues I had. So I'm very interested and excited that we're going to get the continuation of these stories. And I haven't really gone too far into what other people have said about the episode yet. I mean, we are recording this, like Blake said, it's Friday, so just a handful of hours since the episode came out. But I did see a little bit of people. Some people are like very upset that the EXU characters are in this, and I
Surprises
mean,
me.
I know a handful of people didn't enjoy EXU, so I can understand why that they would be disappointed by that. But again, this just goes into the whole like, there's a way to like be disappointed or speak criticisms without being toxic, and I've definitely seen some toxicity, which is just a shame. On already the
Yeah.
premiere of the campaign, people are being that way.
Yeah, and I don't know how much it's like worth our airtime, but I
Yeah,
mean, a lot of the criticisms were plot related. People seem to really like the cast, and so I am surprised to hear that it has been negativity just 24 hours later. But I would venture to guess it's just it's pure association. It's
yeah,
EXU bad, and and so characters from it pop up, and it's like boo. And I mean these characters, I love these characters. I mean, this is so far my favorite character from Ashley Johnson. It's definitely Liam has been crushing it, and then Dorian. Those of you who haven't seen EXU, Dorian is a natural D&D player. This is only his second foray
phenomenal.
into the D&D world, and I don't know. Is Dorian here to stay, or did they say if he's a
Yeah,
temporary addition, or
they haven't come out and said. I know that a lot of people are asking just that, and the Critical Role Twitter account, as the episode was airing last night, like as characters were getting introduced, they would tweet out their like official artwork for each character. And when it was Dorian, it said special guests, but so I don't know if that means like who knows how much we should read into that language. Is it
special
because he is
guests?
like this is a brand new, showing of him, or is it because he isn't only going to be here temporarily? I'm not sure. And kind of on that note, I know some people were thinking, well, like, is Dorian here temporarily? And if he is, does that mean the entire cadre of EXU characters may be here temporarily, and we may have another introduction of Liam slash Ashley's
Hmm.
real character, as it were? And Matt actually kind of touched on that, and I'm actually just going to read what he said here.
Yeah. Okay.
He said, for EXU, Liam and Ashley brought in character concepts they were toying with for C3, taking the opportunity to develop them with Abria and feel them out over that series. If they decided they wanted to make new characters after, then they totally could. They both, however, were excited to continue exploring their stories, both barely just touched on in EXU, and carry them forward into C3. Given that, Robbie's Dorian was a perfect fit to join them, and here we are. With that, the opportunity for them to reroll their stats using the technique we've used in past campaigns was offered and taken up by Fern and Dorian, so that's why their stats were a little bit different.
Okay.
You do not need to have seen EXU to enjoy this campaign or these characters' adventures to come, but you certainly should because it was a blast. Amy and everyone is brilliant in it, and Bria is an absolutely brilliant DM. Alongside these comparably newer characters, Orem, Fern, and Dorian have only scratched the surface of their fateful past before them. There is still so much to explore with this wild bunch of weirdos, and I, for one, cannot wait. And Liam responded to this and said, side note, I've had Orem percolating since 2017. I've been waiting for this. So
Mm.
to me, that cements the fact that this is Liam and Ashley's character and makes me lean more towards maybe Robbie's permanence.
Yeah.
But
Okay. Yeah, or
I'm not sure.
maybe a long-term arc.
Yeah,
Maybe not for the full duration of campaign 3, but yeah, I mean, I love Robbie. I mean, he's
me too.
phenomenal. I love all of them. And I really enjoyed these characters from Exandria Unlimited, so it's great to see them back. I want to ask you though, speaking of like you mentioned, like, is this a temporary character? Is this somebody new? Which
Bertrand.
yeah, that's what I want to get to. But before I say that though, I am glad to hear Matt's comment though, because Orem definitely took a backdrop in terms of his story compared to everyone else.
Mhm.
So I'm really excited to dig in more on him. Bertrand Bell, though. So
Yeah.
I noticed the character sheet that popped up. It said level 5 fighter. everyone else, which this is interesting, everyone else started at level 3.
Yeah.
Which we know in the past that Matt often starts his campaigns at level 2, because 1 is pretty dangerous in general. It's hard to make compelling encounters without outright killing your party. And level 2 is in general a little bit more fun. Level 3 even more so, because for many classes you get your subclass. If you didn't
Right.
get it at level 2, you get it at level 3. Why do you think he started everyone at level 3? But more importantly, why is Bertrand Bell level 5? Because
Okay.
that latter part to me gives me the impression that we're not seeing Travis's actual character he'll be playing.
I agree. First of all, I'm cosplaying as Travis right now. This was the same shirt he was wearing last night. And if you watch
Yes.
our What is Critical Role video, I could not find this shirt the other day. So
Oh, this
everyone
is the
rest
one.
assured I
Okay.
found it.
I was
But
like, when you told me originally, I was like, I have no idea what shirt that is, but I'm glad you found it.
but okay, so this is also something I know that I think is going to be news to you, unless you've already dug around a little bit. But what's another interesting tidbit is that Bertrand is a character Travis has played before in one shots. Um, so this was, and I won't get into as far as since I've seen campaign 1 and campaign 2, as far as like spoilers go in that area, I will if always at least give a warning if in case anyone wants to jump out. But 2, I will usually only stay within the same realm that they're already operating in. So like the only time I would spoil something is if campaign 3 already spoiled it like itself. So Bertrand Bell is a character from one shots, back from the in the era of the first campaign.
Related to EXU Universe.
Uh,
Or sorry, Exandria Universe.
yes,
Like
yes,
some one shots are totally outside of like the
correct,
lore
yeah.
canon, whatever.
These one shots took place in
Okay.
Exandria, back
Okay.
during campaign 1, basically.
Okay.
Which was some 20 or so years, or maybe even closer to 30 from where we are now.
This is why he's half past dead, I would guess.
Yeah, I mean, he was honestly kind
80
of
years
old.
old.
He was honestly kind of old in the one shots, so he's like really old now.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, so that kind of combined with the fact that he is level 5, just that makes me kind of raise an eyebrow that like there might be something more going on here. And maybe it's because they're kind of using him to bring the party together because he Bertrand is the one that kind of, hey, I might have work for you, and kind of brings them all together and takes them to, what is his name again?
Lord
Escape.
Esteros.
Esteros, thank you.
Yeah. But why not just have an NPC like strolling along being like, wow, that was really cool. Do you guys want to like is it just to be different? Like what's
Yeah.
like I think that's the thing. I'm like hearing you say that, and I had a similar thought of like, is he sort of like the quest giver? But then the thing in the back of my mind was like, but why? Like why
Yeah.
have him in this role?
That's a great question. That's my best guess is that, like they kind of teased us with before campaign 3 started. They said, "Hey, watch out. We're going to be doing some different stuff, some crazy stuff." And so like kind of the EXU people coming back, and I think maybe this is just them kind of throwing some things into the fire to like try some different stuff. And I mean, maybe it's just his character, but the biggest like red flag, even though it's not that it's like the biggest, whatever sign to me is the fact that he's level 5, because
Right.
why would he be 2 levels higher? It's just going to cause some weirdness. And he definitely would have been way higher than level 5 in those one shots I referred to. But that I just think is, kind of making it work for what they're doing. But anyway, so to say that I think he was de-leveled to 5. So if you're gonna de-level him to 5, why wouldn't you just de-level him to 3? So anyway, I just think it was possibly a fun thing they were doing. Maybe Travis wanted to kind of, you know, kind of fool everyone in the cast for a little bit as well. Because I wouldn't be surprised if none of them knew that he was doing that until last night. And it also got me wondering if perhaps the person that Orem and them are looking for is Travis's real character. Because I thought that could be interesting. Like maybe he's the anger.
Okay. Yeah, or which I couldn't tell if these were two separate people, the anger and then Bashad Breggio.
Yeah.
So I've written down like two different ways to pronounce it because Bertrand Bell like said it back to him like obviously wrong, and they laughed about it. So I'm not quite sure what exactly it is, but that is a thought I had, was if not necessarily the detail you said, that's a great connector there. I thought maybe his character, like physically origin story wise, is elsewhere for some reason, like in a
Yeah.
jail cell. I don't know. That makes more sense though. If it was the person they're looking for, that'd be an interesting detail. And it would explain, hey, rather than being like, I'm here, them actually having to find that person.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay.
S-
Interesting.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll see, but I'm definitely team. I don't think Bertrand is his real character, as it were.
Yeah,
Um,
okay.
but so I can't wait to. I mean, if it is, that's kind of exciting in and of itself too, because why is he level 5? And
Mm.
but yeah, I don't know. I can't wait to see what goes on with that. But he again, without like being spoilery, he was the same type of character in the one shots, kind of this big like making himself sound very important, like he's kind of done in this episode of saying he owns the wing in that library. And I think they, correct me if I'm wrong, but there was like a deception check rolled on that and he was lying, I think.
Yeah, Ashton insight checked Bertrand and rolled a natural 20.
That's
And
right.
basically he's full of it.
Yeah. So, and plus that added it on to the way that Lord Estros kind of reacted to him, like they weren't really as buddy buddy as he had made it
Yeah.
seem. He obviously has something else going on, so I think that this may just be the first plot hook or the reason or a creative way to have brought the party together. But I still think Travis's character is out there somewhere.
Yeah, which the acting is phenomenal. I mean, the way
Yeah.
Bertrand is presented, of this overconfident showman, on top of the fact as they're arriving to Lord Estros's study, you can just read the nervousness on him. Um, like the door's there and he pauses and he goes, "Okay, here we go." And and you're kind of, it's like that duality there. It's interesting. He's almost like this desperate, I think of a salesperson, like a slimy salesperson who's like
Yeah, yeah.
really like building up to like, the big presentation. But yeah, obviously he's not on good terms with Lord Esteros. Not in a nefarious way, but the impression I got was like, "Why are you here? Like, why are you bothering me?" Is
Yeah.
kind of what I
Seems
thought
like he's
from
like
it.
in deep with him, like maybe he owes him money or
Yeah,
something.
or yeah, there's definitely a level of desperation there of
Yeah.
like I'm bringing these people because it's like my last option. So,
Yeah.
which
And
what's going on with Lord Esteros? I didn't mean to
yeah.
interrupt you, by the way, but
No, no, you're fine. And yeah, I don't know. That's it seems like he is was it revealed that he was a member of one of these things we've mentioned? Because
no, I don't think
one of
so.
the things is
Because it's anonymous.
anonymous, right?
It's anonymous. Yeah,
Which one is that?
the Chandri Quorum.
Okay.
Let me double check this. The Chande Quorum is
Okay.
yeah,
Anonymous. Which that's
anonymous. Yeah.
interesting. That's just like a
And no,
fascinating way for like a power structure to work that it's anonymous.
yeah, and remind me before we're done on this episode to point out a couple other big players, not necessarily in Dressar, but elsewhere in Marquet. Just some of the things that Matt mentioned who are also big players. But
Okay.
anyway, but yeah.
But yeah, I
But
don't know. I mean,
Bertrand actually said though, he was like, "Oh, of course I know someone who's on it."
right,
He
right.
mentioned that too.
Which yeah, makes sense. It's just full of it.
And
Um,
Imogen tried to read detect thoughts, which seems to be some kind of feat. I think she even described it as a feat,
mhm.
because she's a sorcerer. And I was like, well, what is she casting here? And it wasn't the detect thoughts spell, although fresh cut grass cast that later. It is her feat, and so she tries to detect thoughts, fails. But I thought it was interesting that both those characters are able to detect thoughts.
Yeah, and I thought it's possibly interesting is to because we it wasn't fully revealed what Imogen, is it Imogen? Is that how you say it?
I think so.
Imogen.
Yeah,
Uh,
Imogen.
it wasn't revealed what Imogen was particularly wanting access to research, was it? Like that wasn't revealed, like what specifically she was
Right.
hoping to study. And I
Right.
wonder if it has something to do with like her powers and the onset of
She was asked directly
this
twice,
ability to,
and she ignored the question both times.
yeah. And so,
No. Well,
uh,
actually, I think Launda jumped in and said, like, we're just sightseeing and traveling and just want to, essentially, which was interesting because I was wondering their origin story as well. I thought maybe
Mhm.
they were even sisters, and essentially says they met up in a town, connected, and then the part that is a bit you can exaggerative, I guess, is yeah, we're just seeing the world, and but I assume her quest. I mean, the fact Laudna is there to support her, I assumed it actually was maybe related to Laudna, who um, similar to ExU, where Opal's sister, something's
Mhm.
happened to her sister. Laudna seems, which could just be totally just natural for Laudna, but Laudna, I couldn't tell if Laudna was undead or just has, or if she's
Yeah.
pact of the undead. Because I did that is one thing during the episode that I was googling, because I did not, I've played a warlock, I did not recognize what she was doing at all, and there is an undead pact basically, um, and so where you're basically connected to a creature that has stepped outside of the cycle of life and death, and
Mhm.
they give some examples of who these characters are in lore. So I even wondered if like they were looking for a book to help Laudna, or I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess we'll find out. But yeah, I was wondering too if she was human or if she was some like variant race. But I don't think she ever even said like it was kind of left anonymous or not anonymous, but you know what I mean. Um, but yeah, I'm very interested in their relationship. They have a really interesting one because they seem very different at least on the surface. You know, you've got this like we mentioned like a macabre kind of darker um, person in Laudna, and then you've got at least from the description we're given and the accent, just this like southern kind of like young, nice
Southern
girl.
Belle.
Yeah, and I love the
Yeah.
accent by the way. I mean, not everyone in the cast is like doing a like a starkly different accent than their normal voice, but the ones that are, they're just so good, man. Like,
Yeah, literally every character that came on screen, I was like, okay, I love this
yeah,
character. Like
you
Laudna,
instantly, yeah.
yeah, I mean, everyone is great. The bottom line.
Yeah, and
So
specifically a shout out to Marisha, who's not. I think she's done a little voice work, but like compared to the other people at the table, she's not. Uh, she hasn't like she's not as experienced. And so this is the first time she's kind of thrown on like a really different voice from her normal voice. So I thought that was pretty exciting,
yeah, I
and
wouldn't have known that. She was great.
it's great how
Love her character.
yeah, it's great how much you can like how much that really paints a picture just from the voice that they've attributed to them. Um, but yeah, I really like Laudna because it seems like she is casting this like dark persona, but she seems like really kind of sweet at heart. Like
Yeah,
she
I
wanted to play
mean,
with those kids,
yeah,
and
and they're terrified. She's like, I love kids. Like
yeah.
what?
So I'm really interested to see kind of how that unfolds, and just to enter
It's
complete.
very Adams Family esque.
Yeah, yeah,
Is
yeah.
the impression I got. Was I was like, this is an Adams. I can't remember what the daughter's name is, but I was like, this is that character basically of.
Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely like this darkness about her, but yet it's almost like a dark comedy almost.
Yeah. And this is kind of just pure speculation territory, but I was thinking it would be a really cool like kind of foil if Laura's character Imogen is, this outwardly facing really pretty like, southern girl. I mean, we keep saying southern, it's not southern in Exandria, but that type of girl, but really maybe she's got like the darkness in her. And so that's why I was
Mm,
wondering like I wonder
yeah.
if she's looking for this research because maybe this ability to detect thoughts is new to her. Like maybe she's like what's happening to me, and this is like I said, taking a shot in the dark here, but I just think that would be a cool little parallel.
Yeah, I like that comment too, because coming out of the Starpoint Conservatory, she tries to read the Escatore's mind, the person who basically gave her the rejection letter. And Matt mentions that all the students walking by ends up actually being fairly overwhelming, and pains her, like creates a headache or something like that.
Yeah,
So there is this level of amateurism, I guess, with it that I think I didn't recognize that until you made that comment. So you may be totally spot on.
that would be cool. And I just like the pairings we have. Obviously, with the new campaign, all the characters have to come together like they have, but some of them start having known each other. So we've got, the Laudna Imogen connection. And the one I'm probably most I mean, obviously we got the ExU connection. But the one I'm most excited about, I think, is just Sam and Taliesin with fresh cut grass and Ashton. I just what a
Mhm.
freaking pairing. I I can't wait to see more of that unfold.
I think what I like about Talison's character too, Ashton, is it's not like the brooding like loner, like
Mhm.
sort of the stereotype, but like in some, but it is a bit of the loner who is also like very I can't find the phrasing that I want to use for this, but there's this natural camaraderie
Yeah.
that that they and fresh cut grass have together. And even as fresh cut grass is sort of talking, you know, like, what is my purpose? Ashton's like, isn't this great? Like, I've been waiting for people to like see this, and
Yeah.
so definitely like this optimism that is unique and intriguing about them.
Yeah, they're two of my early favorites for sure, and
And the character design, by the way, is amazing for Ashton.
amazing,
So freaking cool.
amazing. And having this conversation with you right now, I'm kind of seeing a parallel as well with like the exterior of Ashton kind of projecting this like badass, like I hate everyone, stay away from me. But we're kind of seeing that in reality, he does kind of like he has friends and is, you know, kind of softer than his exterior
Yeah.
is revealing.
In the
Um,
show, yeah.
but dang, what has happened to his head? What is going on with that? Like he says, you know, you see hell if you stare into it. I wonder.
Yeah, and yeah, I love Fern just being like, I don't see anything, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah, they made a really cool comment, I thought, of, like, describing their injury, I guess, is fair
Hmm.
to put it,
Yeah.
and also the concept of the hammer, the glass hammer. So this theme of like glass, or I think they even described it as like slag glass. So it's very I don't want to say steampunky, but definitely like
Yeah.
this really cool, tangible vibe. Yeah, the character's really cool, the design's really cool. I love your comment on them having this foil with fresh cut grass. Which are you suggesting then that fresh cut grass has a bit of a nefarious or like
Uh,
darker internal? I mean, seems very wholesome. Like
yeah, no,
I
no,
don't
not
know.
necessarily, but I do think there's more to fresh cut grass. Also, every time I say fresh cut grass, it cracks me up.
Yeah.
I do think
Which
there's more to him.
do you think that's his name? His real name?
I think so.
Okay.
I mean, maybe not, but just the fact that he's
I
got like the symbol that looks like that.
sure. I
Um,
wondered if he was named something else, but I guess also there's no real reason to lie about Dancer about that story, I guess. But
yeah,
I did think that was interesting. I am pretty curious about his story of all of his friends dying, basically.
me too.
That going to your comment, it seems like something was left out there. Or rather it seemed a bit convenient. I was asleep and then I woke up and everyone was dead. Like
Yeah.
that was a bit peculiar to me, and I'm not sure what it is that rubs me off about rubs me the wrong way about that.
I think there's definitely more there, especially because it's Sam, and he has some of the most like complex characters in the past campaigns, and he's a very
Okay.
talented actor. And so I just there's more to this. Like I'm not saying it's something sinister or anything, but I just
Yeah,
think
okay.
there's definitely like we're all I think I even texted you this. I was like, can't wait to be emotionally devastated by this robot because I know it's happening at some point.
Yeah, but gave so much backstory so quickly that I was almost like, this seems a little too easy. Like,
Yeah.
that's another thing that threw me off a bit by it. So yeah, and it almost makes me wonder if that will be maybe not the next immediate quest, but nearby, because there was the comment made from Ashton, like, something along the lines of like, "Oh, yeah, the silver mine, it's not far from here,"
Hmm. I didn't pick up
which
on that.
I
So that would be
thought,
interesting.
yeah, that's an interesting comment to make, and so, seems like since it's not far, that maybe their journey would take them there at some point.
That would be interesting. I would love to see that and maybe get some more clues as to what happened there. Um, but yeah, I mean, I guess uh, do you have anything else to say about like the introductions and the characters themselves? Otherwise, I guess I was gonna kind of push on to something else.
No, I don't think so. I'll just say the one detail that I really liked was the Dorian telling the story of getting robbed or pickpocketed, and then Fern pickpocketing the
Yes.
other person in the train car. And Dorian's like, "I just told you," and she's like, "I thought what I took from that was that it's easy to do it. It was,
Yeah.
what do you expect?" So I just love that comment instead of like getting the actual theme of, anyway.
Yeah, that was an incredible moment. And
So, but
one other
that's the only detail.
I remember something now too. One other interesting thing is that Laudna reveals she's from Whitestone, which is
Yes,
a
right.
very prominent place in Exandria, and a place that was a big part of campaign one. And so it was funny that she said it was really shitty. So I'm interested to find out more about her and kind of what's going on there. Um, but yeah, so now speaking of, we were just saying, maybe they'll go to that mine and that will be kind of like a quest that happens soon. Obviously, they're dealing with Esteros right now, and whatever that's going to be. I mean, presumably they show him enough. I don't think, I'm not going to say they defeat him because I don't think they're going
You're
to
gonna
kill
get
him or anything.
the classic enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I can only imagine that he will give them a quest, as it were, because, they're trying to get clout, trying to get money. So he will send them in some direction. But beyond that,
Or he will kill the party, and
yep.
that will
And
be it.
then that's it. We'll be
Yeah.
back for campaign 4.
Yeah.
But beyond that, the main thing we know, and again, we might talk about this in a at a later date or in another video, but there's a lot of loose ends from EXU, and we now have, a whole lot of those people in this story. So I wonder if those threads will be picked up because they're obviously not going to be dropped. So it's either
Mhm.
like, well, I guess, based on Matt's comments, it seems like Fern and Orm are here to stay. So I feel like that has to be coming up soon because they're currently on a mission. So it's not like they're just gonna let's do whatever Esteros says and what's next. Like, they're already on a mission. So I
Well, and it has to be related to the crown, right? I mean, but then again, Matt mentioned in the intro that Opal, I think, still has it in Byroden. Um, but I don't know. I don't know if like the grand narrative is going to be related to vestiges or what have you. But you're right. This is a running plot thread they're not going to drop, and so I would venture to guess Orum's comment on his intuition seems to imply that these roads are going to intersect, whether
mhm.
that's it's immediately with Lord Esteros or the follow up beyond that. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, but their quest was not the crown. Remember, the crown
Right,
was just kind of a added thing.
right, right.
They're
Yeah,
working on, potentially what was coming out of the earth and
the
these weird
runes and
things they're
stuff.
finding.
Sorry, it's hard to remember what was the main the main thing.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Um, so yeah, I mean, I can only imagine that's got to be coming up soon. But yeah, oh yeah, just so I don't forget this, one other thing I wanted to say is that Sam is wearing the same t-shirt he wore on campaign 2 episode 1 and campaign 1 episode 1. So he kind of did this last time during campaign 2. He would like wear the same shirt week to week. And
Oh,
so it's funny that he's started that again. I wonder,
did he carry that all the way through campaign 2?
not all the way through, but
Okay,
a good chunk of it. So I'm
that's
curious
really
to see
funny.
if he's doing that again or if this is almost like a reverse troll that like he'll do it for episode 1 and then he's like, you're just kidding, I'm not doing this again. So
Yeah, okay. Okay. Nice. Well, if I could also mention a couple other like details that I don't know how soon they'll come up,
yeah.
but just like in terms of like the generic landscape of Marquet. Um, so and there's an updated map, so I won't like go to like actual locations, but a couple other like major powers in the area that Matt mentioned was one was the Stratos throne, and the other one was the court of the, I think, Lambent path,
Hmm.
and that they had a conflict at some point called the Apex War that ended in what I took it to mean basically a standstill or a stalemate. Excuse me. Um, and then that's it. That's the only thing I was like, oh, I want to make sure I mentioned that. And then I looked back at the page and I was like, actually, it's just these two quick data points.
No, I'm glad you did. especially at the start of a campaign like this, even coming from someone who's seen all the other campaigns, it's a massive information dump, and a lot of this is brand new to me as well. So I think that, kind of like I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, Matt gives like a 5 minute monologue at the beginning of the campaign. I know I need to probably watch that a few more times and really pick up on all the details, because they're, I mean, he painted a beautiful picture. Like he's so great at kind of
Right.
painting the landscape. But yeah, there was a lot of like a lot of named places mentioned, and it seems like there's a whole, a whole world within just Marquette for
Yeah.
us to uncover.
Which is exciting. I mean, it gives you a sense of like adventure or exploration of like, ooh, I wonder where they're going to go next. But definitely halfway through the monologue, I turned to my wife and I was like, "What?
Yeah, me too.
What's
I
the
was like, I
name?"
have
I
to
mean, there
watch
was
this
so
again.
many names. Oh, there was a detail I wrote down. Ankara, I think, is the
Yeah,
capital, and then Jaman San Ord, I
Juman
think,
Sword. Yeah,
yeah, is the leader. Um, yeah, I think that's it. There's
which
also the Ascension Rise University, which originally turns down Imogen before they go to the Starpoint Conservatory, and both of those are in the Airy Spire, which is the tallest but smallest spire, and some of the higher houses live here as well.
and there will be a quiz on this next
Yeah,
week. So no, so yeah, if anyone else is out there feeling kind of lost in all these details, don't worry. It'll become clear as we spend more time there, and Blake and I are here to help out as well.
sure.
Um, but yeah,
Yep.
Jaman Urt and Ank'Karel have been mentioned a little bit and briefly touched on in the first campaign. So I'm interested
Okay,
to kind
cool.
of see more of
Yeah,
that.
neat. Okay. Well, what do you have anything else you want to mention, by the way?
I probably do, but not that I can think of now. We've hit most of it.
Yeah, yeah, and we've been going a little bit about a little over an hour, so yeah, I guess what I would end with would be, and I feel bad always setting you up with this question because I don't give you time to think, but we finished the first episode. Sounds like we both really enjoyed it.
I did.
So many great moments. Watching it for the second time today, I mean, I still enjoyed it just as much. Um, Give me a safe prediction for what's coming up in maybe in the next handful of episodes, and then give me, just like we did last time, I asked for a bold prediction. Give me a just a risky,
Oh
like
man,
this is probably not going to happen kind of prediction.
safe prediction, I guess, is that they go on this mission for Lord Estros, and that leads to Travis's real character showing up. Because I mean, maybe this is a bold prediction too, because it involves a player changing their character, but I think that's a pretty safe bet that we're gonna get that this has kind of been a red herring with Bertrand.
Hmm.
So I think that those paths will cross maybe even as soon as the next couple episodes. Because I don't think, if they are doing a bait and switch, I don't think they'll have him play Bertrand for very long. Um, and the a bolder prediction, I guess, would be, man, I don't know, that like maybe someone, I don't know, maybe someone dies. But I was thinking, like, if Robbie is permanent, I feel like they would have like come out and explicitly said that. But I guess they wouldn't like write in him dying. So if, like, if he
Yeah.
was gonna be gone, he would just leave. He wouldn't have to die. So I don't know. I feel that was like a cop out answer, but do you
Yeah.
have
Which
one?
speaking of Robbie, by the way, I know he mentioned he stayed here one night. Was it also implied he's from Marquette though?
Uh, I wasn't sure. Did you pick up on that? I didn't pick up on
Well,
that, but I might have missed it.
in the intro of their original characters, Matt, I need to go back and watch the VOD. Matt said something about how, like, the two of them, it was like, oh, wow, we're on the airship, but the third of them had been here and knew it. And so I was just curious, does that mean he was coming from Marquette to Taldore? And then the follow up from that, again, maybe we should put in a separate video on this, but who's his brother?
Hmm.
What's the royalty that he's from? All that kind of stuff. But
Yeah, I think
um,
kind of based on that I don't think he's from here. Because also, would isn't he like on the run from that
yeah,
section of his life, so I doubt he would come back
to
here.
it.
But
yeah, safe prediction is I think Lord Estros is like a vampire, is my guess.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like
this is a bold prediction, not a safe
really
prediction.
I mean, I think the
He's a
implication
vampire?
is, well, I was thinking like full on vampire because I mean, the dude's got no light in his house in like middle of the day.
Okay, that's true.
So I was like, this is pretty heavy handed. So I thought it was pretty obvious.
Oh,
But then once he was an orc, I was like, okay, can there be vampire orcs?
yeah, of
You know, I was like,
course.
I don't know.
Yeah, there can
So
be.
is something that doesn't like sunlight or something? I'm not quite sure. Bold prediction would be that we may meet the big bad in the next couple of episodes.
Of like the whole campaign?
Whole campaign.
That'd be crazy.
So we'll
okay.
See. All right.
All right, I like that, and I think both of yours are bold predictions. So I'm giving you credit.
How
like
dare
I hope he is a vampire, and if he is, I'm not gonna say that it was obvious. I'm gonna say that wow, what a call.
Hey, we get them. You know, like 90% we don't talk about, but the other 10% predictions, like we really, you'll hear from us. You'll hear from us again about this. So
for sure.
Well, I'm excited for next Thursday. I have an idea for our thumbnail.
Okay, yeah, great.
I was thinking just. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say before we dive into that, I just wanted to say one more time for anyone that's with us and hanging out, thank you so much, and please let us know again what type of recap you like. Do you like the in-depth? Do you like the short? Please let us know, and let us know if you have any if there's anything you want us to talk about each week, or any specific questions. Obviously drop those in the comments, and yeah, that's all I got. So sorry.
Oh, and our Twitter is,
oh yeah,
we've changed it.
Yep.
It's at the Pixelists. How about that?
Much easier now, and it's actually the same account. So if you were already following us or whatever, you've already interacted with us, nothing changes. But we just changed our actual handle, which you can do. Who knew?
Called Jack. Yep. Got it changed.
Called him up. So yeah, we are now the Pixelists. So definitely check us out there. And ooh, and I did want to say this, so thank you for bringing this up. Like I said, I've seen the other campaigns. Again, I'm not really ever gonna spoil stuff that the cast themselves haven't dived into. But if you're like me and have seen the other campaigns, and have some like theory crafting or speculative, whatever that might relate to them, and you want to talk to about it, definitely hit me up on Twitter, and we can have like a where we don't have to spoil it for everyone else. But yeah, I'd love to talk to you guys there.
Yeah, for sure. And don't be a stranger in the comments. You know we love to engage with you, so let us know your thoughts. But all right, thumbnail. My suggestion is just like either like a chef's kiss or just like an like we're here. It's episode 1,
okay.
Like just in ecstasy.
All right, I'm down for that.
All right, yeah. I'm gonna do just. I'm really big on like the hand, motion for myself. So
does this read? Does this read as a still image or not really?
I think this doesn't, but like maybe this, like or that. Yeah, that works. Okay. I think that works. Yeah. Well, no, after the fact, it'll be like, this was stupid.
All right.
Or it'll be like, we're geniuses. All
right. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right.
Oh yeah.
We got it, baby.
Well, I'm ready for next Thursday, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not to steal Matt's line, but is it Thursday yet?
That's our line.
Yep, it's ours now.
All right, sweet.
Bye, everyone.
See ya.